Just wrapped up Monster Hunter Wilds on my PS5 Pro. Now, is this going to be one of the games that we talk about in the Game of the Year conversation? Let's get into it. Man, I was looking forward to this one. Capcom was hyping it up big time, and this is one of the most popular franchises in gaming, period, but definitely for Capcom as a company. This is a massive, massive fan base that we're talking about around the world, and what they've been trying to do with each successive Monster Hunter game is to bring it to more and more people out there. The audience has been growing for it. It was a phenomenon, of course, on the PSP, and then there were 3DS games that were very, very successful and popular, but when Monster Hunter World came out, I think the world took notice, and Monster Hunter became this juggernaut brand in gaming. And so Monster Hunter Wilds is kind of picking up the baton, bringing it to current-gen hardware out there, so PlayStation 5, PS5 Pro in my case, Xbox platforms, and of course the PC, utilizing a lot of the sort of modern-day technology, so lots of beautiful lighting in this game. There's lots of amazing environmental effects. You're going to see bouncing and behaving hair on everybody. There are lots of really cool visual flourishes in this. Primarily what Monster Hunter Wilds focuses on is the encounters with the titular monsters themselves. They are tremendous, and they are so unbelievably addictive and fun to play. This is one of those games that's really about encouraging your friends to jump on or to get involved with the various online guilds and parties that you can make and go into battle and go onto these hunts with friends, because it's going to be a lot more fun. And I was playing in the review period. I didn't really get online with anybody. I was pretty much offline most of the time, because every time I would save my progress or put my PS5 Pro to sleep, I'd come back and it would say, you're disconnected from the online servers, and so I couldn't really play with anybody. So what I was doing when I was getting into a lot of these monster battles is I'd send out my SOS flare, and I'd have a couple of AI companions come and join me so that we could take down some of these big beasts, and it was unbelievably fun. It was fun to go at it toe-to-toe, just me against the monster for a while, and then I would get thrown around the environment a little bit, and then I'd say, okay, listen, I want to get past this thing. I want to see what this game has to offer, so I would ask for a little AI help. And it was freaking awesome. I mean, it was just so much fun when you're getting into battle. And I keep dancing around this very obvious thing here, is that as beautiful as this game is, the environments are amazing. There's lots of great biomes. You're in frosty areas and lava-laden areas. You're in beautiful jungles. And everything in this world of Monster Hunter Wilds has been affected by some weird weather patterns. And you're trying to get to the bottom of that mystery. And really, the game starts off with you saving this little kid who escapes this ferocious monster attack who devastates his village from where he comes from. And so you rescue that kid, and you rescue other people, and you encounter other allies as you join this monster hunting guild, and you meet Gemma, who's your blacksmith, and you meet Alma, who's keeping track of all of your quests. You have your little Palico buddy that you can customize in a bunch of different ways, and you go from monster encounter to monster encounter, and then interspersed through all that are these really cool, really fantasy-laden, evocative cut sequences that are wonderful to behold. They're beautifully directed and beautifully crafted to kind of fill in a story and give you some gravitas, to add some real vibe to all of this hunting that you have to do. But it did feel a little thin, especially in comparison to all of these exquisite, mature-rated role-playing experiences that we've been playing in the last 12 or 18 months or so. Baldur's Gate 3, Final Fantasy VII, Rebirth. A lot of people loved Avowed. I'm not a huge fan of Avowed. I enjoyed Dragon Age the Veilguard a lot more and the story that it had to tell with that game. But those games delivered a lot more in terms of real emotional growth and connection to the other characters. This game's trying to do that, and I think in a cleaner way than every other Monster Hunter game that I've played before. They've all been really fun and really addictive when you get out into the battles and stuff, but the storytelling has been a little bit clunky and a little bit convoluted, and it hasn't really drawn me in. This one, it did draw me in. I did want to know more about these characters, and especially all of these different villages that you visit, but there are definite limitations, and it really started to have that rinse and repeat kind of pattern where you would go down, a little path getting to know a character, but everything sort of led up to, okay, well, now we got to go out and hunt this beast, and now we got to go and fight this monster. And I feel like this is a franchise that is clawing, itching, trying to develop some new mechanics, some new story beats to kind of really entrench it as, you know, one of the best role-playing experiences out there. And it's going to get there. You can feel like major amounts of money and major amounts of effort have been put into this game to make the biomes that you visit really feel alive, especially after you beat the sort of story mode and the credits roll and you're still able to go explore and hunt, because this is one of those games, it's almost like an MMORPG that is just playable forever. You can go hunting and hunting and hunting, and even as you're sort of completing objectives and stuff, you can go off on side quests and you can kind of take it as you want to, and each one of the battles can last a long time unless you're properly equipped and you're leveling up everything and you're chasing down all the ingredients and you're crafting, because those mechanics are always solid as well. You're always customizing your character, you're customizing your palico, you're upgrading your weapons, you got a whole bunch of different weapon choices that you can decide on, so you can be, you know, sword and shield, you can be a bow and arrow. I was, I think a bow gun, I think it's what it's called, a light bow gun, so I actually had, it was kind of like an assault rifle up against some of these giant critters, some giant spider-like beasts or giant gorillas and lots of lizards and lots of octopi-looking creatures in here as well, with many tentacled arms and stuff. Lots of creepiness, and they are amazing to battle with, and you do get better and you do get faster, and as you're hacking and slashing and shooting at all of these monsters, eventually you'll create wounds on their bodies, and you can isolate those wounds and you can see those hit points just come ripping off of them, and it's just so freaking satisfying. And then you're digging into the carcasses that you leave behind, and you're taking all of the resources from these animals and these monsters and all of these bugs and other critters and, you know, the rock formation, all this stuff that you can possibly use. You take it back to the camps and you cook stuff up, you craft potions and items, nets and other objects that you might use, these flash pods that light up the environment and blind everybody, or you might shoot dragon pods at some of the dragon beasts and it will slow them down a little bit. And so you're basically resource gathering and then crafting and customizing, and then it's right back to the monster battles. That is a great loop, don't get me wrong, I love it, but I also would love this game to kind of go the extra mile with its storytelling. One of the things that kind of drove me nuts is you go to these beautifully rendered villages and that everybody would be in their tented little huts and things like that, and you'd want to just pop in like you could in almost most of modern RPGs these days, but there were invisible walls all over the frickin' place. And that's part of the immersion, that's part of the storytelling of the game, even if it's not laden with actual dialogue and story and characters, which it's not. It's all really kind of structured to funnel you right back out into battle with these monsters, but there are the occasional interactions that you'll get with different characters, different villagers and stuff, and those are cool, but they kind of suggest something broader and bigger than you're ultimately left with from the game. And so I was pretty underwhelmed with the storytelling and where it goes and how powerful it is. And the other thing that really is a major factor with that, and I know why, because it's the roots of this game is really kind of like a T-rated sort of more grown-up version of what Pokemon offered to players out there, especially in the portable mode. And so this was like a little more hardcore Pokemon with monsters that actually looked like monsters that you could go out and hunt. And I get that. And, you know, you're also capturing them and you're utilizing them, you're befriending them in some cases as well. I understand all that, but I just feel like there is a Monster Hunter game ready to be made where we go a little more M-rated and it gets a little bit more gruesome and there's some real damage and devastation and you see these monsters. You know, I'm not bloodthirsty, I just want to see something where it's like, oh my god, I can't believe that. And it would also add a lot more terror to these beasts, which look ferocious, but they really don't, you know, in this franchise, they really don't go that extra mile and just tear everything to shreds. I mean, they're bashing the environment, there's some beautiful environment effects, lots of just gorgeous lighting with fire effects and flame going everywhere and explosions and stuff, and it's just bouncing off of their skin. The modelers and the animators on these monsters just outdid themselves. It's so gorgeous. And I loved all that, but yeah, there was a part of me that was like, come on, stomp on these humans, like just rip them to shreds, tear them apart. Not that I necessarily crave that. I just want the game and the story around this game to kind of elevate a little bit more and make it a little bit more entrenched. But I'll tell you what, Monster Hunter fans are going to dig this game like crazy. They're going to love it. For me, I feel like Monster Hunter World was that big moment, that sort of like revolutionary big leap forward that made the game and the way that you play it a lot more accessible. And this game is more of an iteration on that revolution. And it's also still a little clumsy. It's still got a lot of clutter in its UI. There's still a lot of like trying to figure out what this little icon means and how I can pair this little icon with that little icon. It took me quite a few minutes to just acclimate to the game and just change the camera. I like to have invert when I play, and it's just like, how do I navigate through this convoluted UI string that the developers have put together, which is based on years and years and years of iteration, and I get it. And, that's really what Monster Hunter Wilds is. It's just a tuned, beautiful, very addictive, very accessible to a degree variation on what we have played before. It's not as revolutionary as I thought it was going to be, but I could not put this down. I just really had a blast playing this game, and I can go back to it and keep playing it because it's loaded with extra content as well. And the other thing too, like production-wise, it's gorgeous, and you can see that from these visuals here. There, are some lighting and blooming issues and stuff that looks a little lower resolution, like you might see some of the critters that you're coming up to are animated with only a few frames or something until you get a little bit closer to them. But on top of the mostly absolutely sensational and gorgeous visuals in this game is a sumptuous soundtrack. You're going to want this blasted. You're going to love all of the monster sound effects and the people screaming and, running out of the way and saying, "Oh, I've got you, I'm going to help you." And there's just lots of just gorgeous audio in this game. Capcom really delivered. I enjoyed the hell out of Monster Hunter Wilds. It maybe wasn't as mind-blowing as I expected it to be, but it's still a freaking fantastic game that's going to be very hard for you to put down, especially if you love this franchise. I'm going to give Monster Hunter Wilds an 8.5 out of 10.